All right, we're getting breaking news that the government has revoked Vijay Mallya's passport. The Ministry of External Affairs says that it took the action under Section 10(3)(c and 10(3)(h) of the Passport Act 1967. Deputy Editor Smita Sharma is now joining us with more details. Smita, this perhaps is the first step that has been taken by the Ministry of External Affairs on the recommendation of the Enforcement Directorate. The ED has asked for further steps. What more is likely to be done by the External Affairs Ministry?
You know, Maha, when that 1 week, in fact, stipulated time period ended, because 15th of April was when the MEA had sent that notice to Vijay Mallya asking him why shouldn't their passport be revoked. Vijay Mallya actually did reply to the MEA on that notice within that time period, because that expired on 22nd of April. He actually responded just in time. But the ministry has clearly not found that response satisfactory. Also, based on the fact that there is actually a non-bailable warrant and there are charges under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So this makes a stickier case, in fact, against Vijay Mallya. So essentially what is going to now happen is Vijay Mallya, remember, has already, in fact, questioned the suspension of his diplomatic passport by the MEA, which was done before the revocation happened in Supreme Court. So he can go back to Supreme Court or he can go back to some other court and challenge as to why has MEA revoked his passport in a way that Lalit Modi had done. Because Lalit Modi too had approached different courts, and in fact, it was only on the third, in fact, appeal that division bench of the court had actually given a favourable outcome as far as Lalit Modi is concerned. But ED has also asked MEA to actually initiate deportation process. That is going to be the next step that the MEA is going to go forward with. They have been in consultation with legal experts and they will be writing into the UK authorities, because this is an executive, in fact, process, not a judicial process. So they will be writing into the law enforcement agencies saying that, look, this is a case against him, there is a warrant against him, and we want, in fact, Vijay Mallya to be deported. So that's going to be the next step in the case.
Right. And Smita, if we look at the case from Vijay Mallya's angle, you are saying that the legal doors for him are open as far as getting back his passport is concerned.
Yes, that is definitely open, because, it does give you a right of challenge. Lalit Modi, in fact, did the same thing. So we were expecting Vijay Mallya also to take the same route. Remember, he's actually gone to Supreme Court and he has said that he is a non-resident Indian. So he is not obliged to disclose his overseas assets. He also sought to, in fact, file information in sealed covers, saying that also the banks that are seeking his information, then that's not right, because the banks are not a proper, in fact, they were not a part of his overseas assets recast process. So these are the arguments that his lawyers have already made in court. Expect him, in fact, to go and knock on the doors once again as far as this latest trouble for him is concerned, which is the revocation of his passport now.
Smita, do we know anything about what the reply to the External Affairs Ministry from Vijay Mallya was like, which was found unsatisfactory by the ministry?
MEA is kind of tight-lipped about it because they were proceeding with some caution. But going by his response in court, what the lawyers actually said in court, one can perhaps make a safe guess that his response would have been along similar lines. That, keeping in mind that he's an NRI and that he will come back in due process, that he's not escaping the law. So perhaps along these lines, the response was not found satisfactory, because the ED had already summoned prior. They had sent out several summons to Vijay Mallya to come and present himself to be answerable to a court of law, which he hadn't done.
Smita, also you were saying that now the next possible step is to start the process for his deportation back from the UK to India, so that the ED can record his statements. They have already summoned him thrice and he has not appeared before Enforcement Directorate. Now, what is that procedure like?
There's a difference, because remember, MEA, in the case of Lalit Modi, there are these two, in fact, men whose cases are springing up for comparison time and again.
Yes.
In Lalit Modi's case, MEA had actually sought extradition, but obviously that did not find favors with UK, that did not sort of cut UK countries like UK or Portugal, they're very, very particular. They're very finicky. In fact, we don't have a single case of extradition from the UK so far. In Portugal, we had the case of Abu Salim, but remember, Portugal had put in all those clauses in place saying that he cannot be hanged to death, he cannot be executed.
Yes.
So, because these countries are very particular about human rights issues. Now, in Lalit Modi's case, he had residence permission, a stay permission in the UK, which we'll have to now see if Vijay Mallya is able to pull out from his pocket and show it, or if he has some other legal travel documents issued by some third, fourth country to be able to travel across the globe. Because MEA will now essentially seek, not through a court, but through the law enforcement agencies, asking its UK counterparts to make sure that he's not able to travel out of UK, that he's only, if he has to come back to India now, remember, Vijay Mallya will actually have to go into the Indian mission and get a travel document to travel back to India.
Yes.
Because technically at the moment he is without a legal document following the revocation of his passport. And, when once a person becomes a member of parliament, you only can have one passport at one time. So when he became a member of parliament, his ordinary passport ceased to exist. That must have been submitted to the passport authorities while he was handed over a diplomatic passport, which now stands revoked.
Yes.
So MEA will now proceed with the deportation process, which will of course be time-taking, and we'll have to see as to how cooperative is UK really at this point.
Also, Smita, there was a lot of talk about how since Vijay Mallya is also a member of parliament, this matter could go to the ethics committee as well. The fact that he has failed to show up to the enforcement directorate despite 3 summons. Now, do you think that with all these moves now that we are seeing his passport being revoked and also, his possible deportation being sought from the UK, do you think that perhaps the parliament might also look at taking an adverse view?
Well, that will not be surprising, Maha, because Parliament also reconvenes now after that budget session break on 25th. And Monday is when the Parliament starts, its session as well. So we already saw, if you remember, the day when Vijay Mallya left for India, I think both you, me, we were in Parliament. We were talking to members of Parliament as to when had they last seen Vijay Mallya.
Yes.
And most of them had said that they had just seen him maybe 48 hours prior to his departure, or just 2 days back in Parliament as well. So it will be a political move now as far as the Parliament proceeding is concerned, but the legal steps will be more concrete to be taken by the MEA.
Right. And Smita, let's get in a word now from our executive editor Javed Ansari as well for the political moves now, perhaps, as Smita was putting it there, because Javed, on the legal side, the ED has asked Ministry of External Affairs to proceed on the passport, which it has, by revoking it. What are we likely to see in Parliament? Possibly some move in the Ethics Committee now?
Well, this matter is before the Ethics Committee, and in due course the Ethics Committee will meet and take a call. But this is essentially a problem that the law enforcement agencies need to tackle, whether it's violation of of the Money Laundering Act, ED. These agencies will have to come into play and take over from here. The government has done what it should have. They've revoked his passport. Now the ED and other law enforcing agencies have to ensure that it's enforced, and they're bringing back to India so that the law of the land can take its course against him.
Javed, how much pressure was the government under to act in this case after the Lalit Modi issue?
They were under considerable pressure, especially as far as perception goes, because this government has made a strong, case of saying that we will apply the law uniformly, that there will be no favors, that it has no favorites, and that those who are on the wrong side of the law will have to pay the consequences. It was accused of some laxity. Certain members in this government were accused of being soft on Mr. Lalit Modi, and therefore the Prime Minister, I do believe that this initiative has come from the Prime Minister. He gave a clear signal that the law must be allowed to take its course, and all those, whether it's Vijay Mallya or anybody else, whoever has violated the law has to face the consequences.
Javed, how significant would you say is this move of revoking Vijay Mallya's passport, because he's a member of parliament and was holding a diplomatic passport which has now been revoked?
Yes, holding a diplomatic passport does not provide you immunity if you have broken the law, if you violated the law. And therefore, this was just a the diplomatic passport that is made available to MPs is just to facilitate easier travel. It's not some kind of a suraksha kavach against the law enforcement agencies, and therefore Mr. Mallya has to pay the price. And this is part of a larger move, which is to ensure to cut all avenues of escape for Mr. Mallya and to ensure that he comes back to India and faces the consequences.
All right, Javed Ansari and Smita Sharma, both of you, many thanks for getting us all those details on this bit of breaking news. Vijay Mallya's passport has been revoked. The Ministry of External Affairs has found his reply after the suspension of his passport unsatisfactory.